The world-famous Randolph Street Market Festival returns July 25th and 26th. One of the top flea markets in the country. It's a destination for antique and art collectors, designers, and anyone who loves hearing, "So what did you get there?" There's a parking garage and the shopping is indoors and outdoors, so AC if it's hot and coverage if it rains. You'll also be able to enjoy live music, great food, and 3 market bars. You never know what you're going to find at the Randolph Street Market. Get tickets at randolphstreetmarket.com.
You ever see a town just quietly do something unthinkable? Bloomington, Indiana did. We were hiking the hills, sipping coffee, strong enough to make you think you could move them, debating the absurdity of greatness. Then one day, greatness raised its cream and crimson flag. A town known for hoops. We make history. You'll want to do the same next time you visit. Bloomington. Not what you expected. Still, absurdly great.
This is CityCast Chicago. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and here's what Chicago's talking about. Yadani, I need some happy hour suggestions. I'm supposed to be meeting up with some friends over the next couple of weeks. I have been tasked with picking the place. You got a good spot for me?
Jacoby, I got you. That's my specialty. I will say, I feel I feel like there's a lot of really great happy hours in the different neighborhoods, but I'm not gonna lie, my go-to is actually one in the Loop because it is in the Loop. Like, I have friends that are kind of all over, and sometimes like you just need to find a middle spot. So I really like Emerald Loop. They do $6 wine. You can get any white, any red, any rosé, $6 beers, even I think $3 beers sometimes. Like, that's cheap enough for me. That's my go-to, I
I'm
would
with
say.
that. That is contributor Yadani Murillo. We appreciate having you in the building with us today.
I love to be here.
Simone, I need you to add to my list. You got a happy hour spot for me?
It's so funny. Because I work from home and kind of just like am around the neighborhood, like happy hour is so not on my radar.
You would think you would be the perfect candidate for
because I can leave
hour
at the actual time for happy hour. Yeah, because I
Save the table.
No, it's because like I don't need to have that like third place after I get up. You know what I mean? The whole point of happy hour is you go to the office and you have the third place and you got to gather and like unwind from the day. Like I'm already here. Like I'm already in my safe place. You know what I'm saying? I will say Fat Cat has a happy hour Wednesday through Thursday, 4 to 7, specifically though, because they have like different specials. Each day. And I really like their Whiskey Wednesday because I think they make a decent old fashioned. And so those are $7 cocktails during those hours. But to be honest, if I am getting a drink after work, I'm just going to Big Chicks because it's across the street. Yep. It's right there. I literally, every time something good happens, I'm like, all right, time to go to Big Chicks. And I've never had a bad cocktail there. Every cocktail I've had is great. So those are my picks.
Shout out to our executive producer, Simone Alisea, for adding to our happy hour list, and our friends over at The Infatuation, who just last month put out their 25 best happy hours. One of the places I'm going to is not on the list, and that's Karis in Bridgeport. They've got a happy hour 4 to 6. I think it's Wednesday through Friday. For $10 over at Karis, I'm going to grab the Alex's Shifty. That's a Modelo and either a mezcal or a tequila shot. And then one on the list that I do want to try out is Salazzo over in West Elston, the Gage Park area. And they got a happy hour with $3 tacos and $9 palomas, $8 micheladas. I'm trying to get that $9 margarita, though. And so I need to pull up on them sooner rather than later.
I will say, as I was, frantically Googling Chicago happy hours before this conversation, there is an account on Insta. I can't speak to who they are or their work, but it's called Chicago Happy Hour _revolution. They do have like various lists of different cocktails of like, they have like happy hours on the river and like patios and where it's an entire menu and not just a drink special. And the lists look legit. Like they've got screenshots of the menus and sort of from the business themselves. And so if like, oh wow, they have a whole website that you can search day of the week and by neighborhood. That's wild. I am so not into the happy hour game that I did not realize that there's this whole cottage industry dedicated to finding the happy hour.
No, there's
in
so
Chicago.
much because it's like some of them are early and some of them are late.
It's
Like some
true.
of so it's like you got to find the one that works best for everybody's schedule and then where it is and what they're offering. Like it's an art. I feel like the happy hours are for people with not the deepest pockets. I'm that friend that's like, I have $10 in my pocket. Where are we going? Like, I'm gonna make this work. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to just like throwing a little wink at some guy at the bar and having them buy me something. But like, I'm still gonna go out with my $10. So we gotta find a way to make it work.
Hey, we can't be talking about the Love Island moves just yet.
All right. It's in my mind.
So, we started this week talking about one big appointment that Mayor Johnson will have to make, and that's who's going to lead the Chicago Police Department. But we got news of some other leadership changes. Let's start with the Chicago Department of Public Health, because I feel like we haven't talked a lot about that since the announcement was made back in Memorial Day that somebody had called for a resignation.
Yeah, so Dr. Olusimbo Ige resigned in May. She was the commissioner of the Chicago Department of Public Health. And as you allude to, Mayor Brandon Johnson had asked for her resignation. There were allegations around a hostile work environment. There was a lot of turnover. There were also some questions about like some federal COVID funding that maybe was like voluntarily returned to instead of being
millions
used.
and millions of dollars.
Yeah, which seems odd for a department that, you know, without that funding has and public health departments in general tend to be pretty chronically underfunded. So a lot of questions about her decision making there. And, you know, Johnson announced this week that he is planning to appoint Dr. Garth Walker to the role instead. Walker is chief medical officer at Rush Health, and he was previously a deputy director at the Illinois Department of Public Health during the COVID pandemic. He's also a researcher, and his research focuses on sort of conditions that contribute to both mental and physical health. So talking about things like job access, housing, community violence, things that aren't necessarily like, you know, things that are sort of like related to public health, but aren't strictly sort of the medical, like, you know, disease surveillance and things like that. Right. So that's kind of where his research focuses. And that appointment does still need to be confirmed by the city council. But yeah, this is probably one of the quickest, like, vacancies to appointments that we've seen in the Johnson administration for pretty much his whole term, I think.
It feels like that's not a talking point you want to hang over your head.
No, you don't want to advertise that.
Forums, right? But I will say, you know, it feels like the environment that Dr. Walker is coming into, you talk about chronically underfunded, but at this moment during Ige's time as the commissioner, I think I read some 200 people had either resigned or been terminated. There was a lot of concern, and the Tribune has cited direct emails from staffers who said, hey, my department has been upended from these cuts. And to Dr. Olusimbo's credit, they say that people had been given, you know, a year's notice that positions were going to have to be cut. There would have to be some reorganizing because COVID funds were going to be drying up, and that some programming and some positions were reliant on it. But to your point, it's really hard to hear that information when not only it's not simply that the time to spend the money ran out, but that it was voluntarily given back during this reorganization and during these terminations, which, you know, she says we didn't want to, you know, use this money for positions that would again have to be terminated in a few months. But some advocates argue that wasn't the only way to spend the money. There was other programming needs that were kind of left on the table or sunset earlier than need be.
I think the biggest question is sort of like what, you know, the Chicago Department of Public Health is pulled in a lot of different directions right now. And what will be sort of the main focus? I think the trick is right. Obviously, during the COVID pandemic, there was one pretty big unifying thing that the public health department was focused on, right? I think in the years since then, there have been a lot of other concerns. I think, community violence is a big one, and sort of gun violence as a public health issue. I think that's been a huge one. I think environmental issues as a public health issues.
The life expectancy gap.
And the life expectancy gap has been big. That's always been true in Chicago. Chicago is always where the life expectancy between neighborhoods is decades apart, right?
Insane.
Right. And that has something that's always been true. But
on top of, don't they do all health inspections of restaurants? And
so on top of they're doing the regular stuff that public health departments are always doing when you're talking about you're talking about public health inspections, but also just like we still have disease surveillance that we need to be doing, right? There's this like parasite that I don't know if you've heard about this on like raw produce that is maybe like starting to bubble
diarrhea.
Up. Yeah, right. Like that, I see their posts about that. They also have been doing a lot. They have been doing a lot around mental health still, right? Been doing a lot of, clinics and other things. And so there's just a lot going on in the public health department. And I think there isn't this sort of unifying thing like there was during the pandemic. Ige came to us from New York, where she had served as a deputy commissioner, I think, during the pandemic. Again, Walker has been working in a hospital, has also worked in public health, so kind of has that a couple different kinds of experiences that he's coming to this with. And he's from Chicago. I think that's also born
and raised Chicagoan.
Yeah, CPS grad, right? Like he's been in the city for a really long time and has, been working in the city as a doctor for a long time. And so I think changing direction, although again, tough to have like this many still be worried about who is leading these big departments when we're now, 6 months out, less than 6 months out from the mayoral election.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and it wasn't just in public health that is seeing some nominations. Johnson also announced appointments to the new transit boards, and there's a lot here. So can you remind us why Johnson is making these appointments?
I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible because it is a bit confusing. So, okay, this is all stemming from that transit bailout legislation that the General Assembly passed, and right. On the one hand, it closed a big budget gap and we're getting all these new services, right? More coordination between CTA, Metra, Pace, right? CTA, Metra, and Pace. Part of that coordination comes from the creation of the Northern Illinois Transit Authority. That is the new transit authority overseeing CTA, Metra, and Pace. As part of that creation, it also shakes up the individual boards of those transit agencies, CTA, Metra, and Pace, because those boards will now answer to the NEDA board. That's what we're calling it, the big board, in different ways, right? The biggest way that kind of the power shift is happening is in how many board seats different officials get to have. So on the NEDA board, the big board, for example, Johnson gets some appointments. So does the governor. So does Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle. And then so do a consortium of suburban mayors of the collar counties served by these transit agencies. That is
Starline Chicago has an amazing graphic that breaks down the size. It's color coordinated. I mean, I will drop a link in the show notes.
There is a graphic. I don't know how helpful the graphic is, to be honest. If you don't already know how the different appointments work, you really got to read those shapes and lines very carefully. But yeah, so basically, like, there's a sort of swing of power in who gets to appoint whom. And so because that legislation went into effect earlier in the spring, we're starting to see those appointments come down. Preckwinkle announced her appointments, I think last week or within very, very recently. And now we're seeing Johnson's appointments. And I think what is kind of remarkable is there's not that much changing actually about who's on these boards, despite the fact that, when Johnson had made a couple of previous appointments, that those face some really big pushback. So I think most notably on the CTA board, right? So that's the little board that just oversees the CTA. He is maintaining Pastor Michael Eady, who was appointed by Johnson in 2024 to quite a lot of pushback for a transit board appointment.
Yes.
Most notably because the pastor admitted that he rarely rides the CTA. And of course, he doesn't have a lot of transit expertise. Johnson is also keeping Attorney Lester Barclay on the CTA board and also appointing him to the NETA board, the big board. Barclay is a Lightfoot appointee, but what is kind of remarkable about him is that he wrote an op-ed in the Chicago Tribune before the NETA legislation was passed, really harshly criticizing
being like,
it.
I don't like this.
He's
It feels
like, I think
it's taking the power away from us.
Yeah. And so it's sort of, to then put that person in one of the seats that kind of drives the decision making behind that agency that he criticized, it's just a bit odd.
I was following a graphic that accounted for how many times different CTA staff members or board members had ridden the either bus or train, and the Reverend 36 times in 2025, 0 times in 2024. And a lot of the criticism is that one of the people who was not nominated, Roberto Requejo, he's a person who has been a longtime transit advocate, rode the system 250 times in 2025, 220 times in 2024, and helped develop the city's transit-oriented development plan. And some have pointed out or implied that maybe Johnson dropped them or did not nominate them because they did not back an earlier nomination for the CEO of CTA back in 2025. And so in a lot of these appointments, if you dig a little bit, there is some sense, as always, that there is more than meets the eye, and still some questioning on the logic behind Johnson's selections.
Yeah, I think you're right. Politics is always going to be at play. That's what appointments are. I'm choosing this person to make decisions on this board, right? And so there's always going to be politics at play. What I think is a little unclear is just sort of like what the strategy is here vis-a-vis how we expect these people to be making decisions. And again, like funding decisions, capital decisions, literal building decisions about one of the city's largest and most used resources, right? We're talking public transit, we're talking CTA, we're talking trains and buses for that matter, right? Like, and I don't think that is clear, kind of the layout of how these people will vote or kind of what their decisions might actually be. That part I don't think is clear, and I don't think it's necessarily clear kind of what the mayor's strategy here is. I do think that leadership question is a big one. We've had an interim. Nora Learson has been serving as the head of CTA since 2025. And
you
now
know how many
because
times they rode CTA in 2025 and 2024, because it's a big ass number.
How many?
Yeah, 549 times last year, 379 times the year before, versus their predecessor, Dorval Carter, 0 in 2025 and 56 in 2024.
Now, the other complicating factor is because this new legislation has taken effect, the actual final approval will come from this NETA board, which again has appointees from the state, from the county, and from suburban officials as well. And so it used to kind of be all of that was concentrated in, most of that power was concentrated in the mayor. That is not a case. I will once again say that these transit board appointments also have to be approved by the city council, though I don't know how much debate or pushback there will be there.
The Taste of Chicago is back in Grant Park, y'all, and it's going down July 8th through the 12th. That's Wednesday through Sunday. You heard me. That's 5 days of celebration that bring the whole city out of towners. We all together out there celebrating the city, footworking. We know Chicago is one of the best food cities in the world. Ain't nobody gonna tell me different. But whether you craving a classic neighborhood bite or you trying to discover your next favorite spot, let me put you on that Lexington Betty Smokehouse. The Taste brings all of these flavors together that make Chicago the place it is. And here's a tip. Some of the food pop-ups only happening on certain days. So check the schedule. And if you're looking for some Taylor's Tacos, they only gonna be out there Wednesday and Thursday. All right, so write it down and maybe go ahead and plan a couple of trips. Plus, we gotta talk about the music. I have been overly impressed by the performances at the Taste in the last couple years, and this ain't no different. They got Beach Bunny, Original Coffee, Babyface gonna be out there, y'all. Julieta Venegas gonna be out there, y'all. Common gonna be out there. Of course he is. Whether you go every year, you ain't been in a while, or for some reason you on the sideline hating. Nah, man, get out there. Taste Chicago 2026. Visit tasteofchicago.us for the full lineup and more info. This one is from my wine aficionados and my nature lovers out there. Summer Wine Fest is back at Lincoln Park Zoo July 18th. Yes, one night only. You'll be able to sample a curated selection of wines, explore the zoo's botanic garden, enjoy a beautiful live string quartet, and even drop into a casual dance class. So, go on, put the lemon pepper steppers on if you got it. Plus, there will be winery representatives and an expert horticulturist, so bring your best wine and garden questions. It'll be an enchanting evening of wine, music, and lush gardens at Lincoln Park Zoo on July 18th. But there is only a few tickets left, so go ahead and reserve your spot today. Tickets and more information are available at lpzoo.org/events. If I asked you right now, what is the biggest TV event in Chicago, you would probably be quick to answer the World Cup. But I don't know, Yanani. I think there might be another answer competing for what is bringing Chicagoans around the TV together the most right now.
I agree. Or I've seen some people split in the screen. Like, you hold one, I hold the other one.
Tell us a little bit more about Love Island. You watching right now?
Oh, yeah, I'm up to date. I just saw the last episode. Genuinely, I feel like people try to cast it too superficial, but I'm just like, if so many people in the world, even my mom is watching Love Island, like, it cannot be as superficial as people say it is. So literally everybody is talking about it. The season finale is July 12th. So that's going to be a big moment.
For those of us who are uninitiated, what is Love Island? What is it actually about?
So Love Island is a reality dating show that comes from the UK. So the UK was the first Love Island. So the show starts with 12 singles that enter the villa. The end goal is that you are supposed to be in the most popular couple, and the most popular couple wins $100,000. Split $50,000 between each partner. And throughout the show, your relationship gets tested, like at different challenges.
Obviously.
But there's going to be new connections. People can steal your connection because at the end of the day, you are supposed to have the best connection. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's the first person you paired up with. And throughout the show, there's bombshells, which are singles that enter the villa as bombshells into the show. And their target is they need to make a connection with somebody that's already in a connection. So they got to steal you away. So in short, that is what Love Island is. But as I said in our email, I fully believe that Love Island is an anthropologic and sociologic case study on human relationships and the dynamics that play into them, including race, gender, and socioeconomics. So that is my spiel.
I will agree with that. I will also add that I think it is one of the most diabolically constructed reality TV shows I have ever watched in my life. I had been on the sidelines to most of the commentary for years now, but after enough TikToks,
Jacoby, you watched 27 episodes over the weekend. You admitted
over the last week. Yeah, I have
so
seen
many.
and caught up to the entire, because of the production and the editing. The way it sort of pulls you in. It's coming on 6 days a week, and so you're essentially binging the show as it's happening.
Exactly.
over the course of whatever 5 or 6 weeks that it's on TV. And I don't have anything else to compare it to.
It's like
in
Big
regards to
Brother
its other
times
seasons.
The Bachelor.
Yes.
Are there places in Chicago where folks can gather together, do some watch parties, and maybe get together and watch that finale?
So there's going to be so many places that are airing the finale. The two that I know have been constantly playing them are Theory and River North, and then Chicago Sport and Social Club, which is taking place at Fulton Social, which is like in West Loop. But I've also seen that for this finale, there's going to be a lot of bars in River North specifically that are playing it. Like I saw Gold Coast is playing it. I feel like the show is really calling on audiences. I think especially that I've seen in Chicago as my friends and people I've met are talking about it. It's because we see our love lives represented in this show. Like, I mean, I'm assuming you two are cuffed up. So maybe you don't, you haven't lived the recent.
Wow, what an assumption to make that is so accurate.
Just some snippets. So I don't know how long it's been that y'all have been off the market, but the market is in hell right now. So I think that's why people are really relating to Love Island right now. Like we see a lot of our real life experiences reflected in that.
What exactly? Because you're not locked in a villa with 11
right,
other
yeah.
people.
How is this reality?
Like,
I think right now the couple that is projected to win is Brinity, which
Brinity.
is
Mm-hmm.
Is that a portmanteau name? Is that what's going on there?
go.
Yeah. That is
So-
between Bryce and Trinity, but
But even then, like on paper, you look at that and you're just like, ooh. So Bryce is a 30-year-old white DJ from LA. And then,
Obviously.
right. And then Trinity is a 22-year-old Black woman from Virginia.
Okay.
the producers are clearly telling and steering us in a certain direction and trying to make this the love story
Right.
of the show.
Right. Exactly. But I feel like that is the classic trope of a lot of young women that end up dating these older men like genuinely I see my friends' stories in the show, like thinking that there's going to be a higher level of maturity. So that's already one trope right there, and obviously that doesn't always work out. But yeah, dating is hard right now. I literally I applied for a Chicago dating show. I did not get in.
Did you really?
I did. It wasn't even a show. I need to look it up, but I saw it on TikTok. And it was like a live comedy show.
Oh, yeah. There are a few of those around Chicago.
Exactly. So I feel like the fact that there's been such a rise in those events and with the rise of popularity of Love Island, I think just generally shows that people are very invested in trying to figure out this sphere.
Mark your calendar, Chicago, to celebrate the Public Library Foundation's 40th anniversary. They're hosting their first ever summer soiree. It's going down August 26th at the McDonald's headquarters rooftop in West Loop. There's going to be free food, an open bar, and personalized poems. Plus, they promise other surprises in store. And maybe, just maybe, your favorite host will be in the building. The theme is 40 and bolder to celebrate the foundation's 4 decades of impact, building up Chicago's libraries into one of the city's most amazing resources. And your $100 soiree ticket goes towards funding lifelong learning programs like free homework help, teen internships, and digital skill classes for adults. The event is 21 and over, so don't miss the opportunity to connect with fellow library lovers over a themed cocktail. Buy your tickets at bit.ly/CPLF Summer Soiree. We've also got the link in the show notes. The Newberry Library will be opening its doors Saturday, July 18th for Newberry Fest. It's a free open house where visitors can see exhibitions, take a tour, join a workshop, and browse a used book sale. You'll also be able to see a 1776 copy of the Declaration of Independence, as well as an array of books, manuscripts, maps, and more. Plus, curators and librarians will be around to answer your questions about the library's collection of rare and historical materials spanning a millennia. Learn more and register at newberry.org. Let's stay on TV. Two of Chicago's biggest shows are wrapping up their final seasons. The Bear dropped all of their final episodes. And then you got The Chi on Showtime, which their series finale is July 24th. And so we need another hit Chicago TV show, preferably not a reality TV show, not for no other reason than, you know, I'm looking for a comedy or a drama or a dramedy or, you know, something in that mix. Simone, if you had to pitch to me the next hit Chicago show, what's the synopsis?
Okay, so this is either going to be disgustingly indulgent or really excellent and very sharp. And I think a workplace comedy set in Chicago's improv scene, shot mockumentary style, would... There are just so many, like, and I think you could do so many things. Like, you could have people who are at a big Second City like theater, and then some other people who are trying to make it, like, who are in classes in a smaller theater, and like you have the scenes of people teaching the classes versus like coming up with the show. And then I think like you would play with the people who think they're too good for Chicago and maybe are trying to get out to LA, and then like that kind of tension. And I think like part of the joke would be like, because it's a mockumentary, the people who would be like trying to get on camera as much as possible and like trying to get screen time, and like I think that could be like, there's something very funny there, and there's so much like behind the scenes drama that goes on in that scene that I think it could be very fun to satirize again, or it could just come off as like really gross and self-indulgent. That's a really tough line to walk, I think.
Wait, no, that's so creative, Simone. Like, I think you should go produce that, because that's such an original idea. Like, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, Danny, what's your pitch?
I know you said no reality TV, but like, we don't have a reality TV show.
Go for it.
We don't have one in Chicago. Like, what do you mean there's the Real Housewives of Orange County, and then they got Rhode Island, but we don't got Chicago? Not
Who
even
are
like,
the Real Housewives of Chicago, though? Who are they?
ooh. I feel like you could do like a bunch of like those.
I'd
like,
watch Val Warner on TV.
I feel like you could do those like Gold Coast moms that like send their kids to like the private schools up there. Like, I'm sure some of those women have affluent careers or affluent partners.
It would be Gold Coast.
It would have to be Gold Coast. Or honestly, I feel like there definitely could be a lot in the burbs. Like,
oh,
like,
that's true. Oh,
Skokie.
yeah, who? I think it was maybe Michelle who was like, or maybe Emmy who was like Real Housewives Winnetka, right?
Yeah.
Is really what it would be.
That's where it would go.
Winnetka, Frankfurt, we Naperville.
Yeah,
Real Housewives. I might watch Real Housewives of Naperville. Actually, that
Like, I
something
think
about that
there's
really
potential.
tickles something in me that Real Housewives of Chicago doesn't quite get at for me. Real Housewives of Naperville could be really funny. Jacoby, do you have a pitch for like a TV show?
Yeah, so I want to see a TV show where the central premise is that the next generation doesn't want to take over the family business. And I've got 3 places that I'd like to see this. I think Chinatown, Little Village, or I'd want to see like a Black-owned record store in like Uptown. Mostly because I want to hear all of the jokes about them being like, yes, Black people was in Uptown. What are you talking about? What do you mean? It's Black people on the North Side. Of course we up here. And so I feel like those jokes would hit a lot in a way. But yeah, something about not wanting to take over the family business, I think, is just a good launching pad in Chicago for every conversation that we are having in
I
the
like
city.
that because I also like the twist on like, that's not my dream, Dad, that's your dream. You know, it's, I think.
But I feel like, I mean, like, not like, isn't that Loki the Bear?
No, I think the Bear is a bit different just because of the nature of the
Yeah.
way that business was passed down, right? Like, I think that's kind of a different story versus a generational, sort of an intergenerational story about like, particularly if it's like, because I think it's such a Chicago story, Jacoby, to your point, is like there are so many of these businesses that are sort of icons on their block, even if they aren't necessarily known more widely throughout the city. But they end up closing, not even really due to financial reasons or whatever, but it's just like, oh, the kids don't want to take over, and I don't really want to like sell, or like it's better for me to just like sell the building and the land or whatever the case might be. Like it doesn't, the business
You get
itself
plenty of flashback opportunities.
Yeah. I think that could be really good. And I think you could play it. I think you could either play it for laughs or play it for drama, right? You can kind of go either way with it.
Oh, I just had another idea.
Come on.
We're pitching.
Yeah, I feel like honestly this would be a great drama. Like, I would love to see like a show showing like the relationship between the Black and brown community on the south side of Chicago. Like, I feel like there's a lot there. Like, even with, I personally just really like stories that take on racial dynamics, and I think that the way Black and brown people have been pitted against each other historically, like there's a lot there. And, we do take up most of the south side of Chicago. So there's definitely been real life stories of like clashes about like finding love. Like
I want to see two competing food trucks. They want the same spot.
Yeah.
And they ultimately decide to go in on a brick and mortar together at the end of season 1. Now we really are the bear.
I actually think you don't focus on one business. I think you focus on like Chicago Lawn, like a changing neighborhood that's maybe changing from more Black to more Latino, right? And then you have different stories. So maybe the food truck sort of is one storyline, but then there's like a development that the community has to come together over, right? Because that's happening. Because then you have like, some white politician or whatever who's like touting this, or developer who's touting this new thing. And so like, that's where they come together, but then they argue over who should do what. And there's, I don't know, maybe there's something else about Spanish language signs going up somewhere. I don't know, right? Sort of more of like a character, like, or character study, and you have certain characters who kind of follow you through, and a couple of B plots, and
a love story. There has to be a love story. The daughter of the Mexican food truck, and then the son of like the soul food truck.
And then they make some kind of fusion, right? Yeah. Yeah.
How funny is it?
They find love in their differences.
Turns out every show is actually just the same show, so it's not that hard to like just pitch on them.
Every single one of us just said, "Here's a cliche. Let's throw it on the board," and now we got a production company right in front of us. Look at us.
That's
Look at
how
us
TV
getting
works.
this money. Exactly. Now we just need some big money. I want to give a huge thank you to our guest today, executive producer Simone Alisea. Always a pleasure.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
And contributor Yurdani Murillo. Thank you for making time for us today.
I'm just here for a good time.
For everybody else, head over to chicago.citycast.fm, bookmark the website, subscribe to our daily newsletter, and check out our events calendar, which is packed from you. Our good news today is coming straight out of it. On Friday, you've got the Wellness Fest in Avalon Park, which is free. On Saturday, you got the Greek Fest at St. Andrews up in Edgewater, and you got the Chicago Mexican Folk Fest at Talia Hall in Pilsen on Sunday. Another weekend in Chicago, packed with festivals. Drop one in your calendar. And if you want to tell me which one you're attending this weekend, reach out to us at 773-780-0246. We're going to be back bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace.